Welcome back. You're watching We Mean Business, and we're discussing two critical reform initiatives that were given a big push, with the cabinet giving them a green signal. We've discussed the land acquisition bill. Time now to focus on the Cabinet Committee on Investments, which was earlier being described as the NIB, or the National Investment Board. How critical is it to the overall economy? Let's now try and get reactions from our panelists, and also let me go across to Mr. Adi Godrej to get his reaction. Mr. Godrej, do you see this as a potential game changer?
I think it's a very important decision. It will improve the perception of India very strongly. Many of the projects have taken far too long to implement, and partly is because of lack of coordination within the government. So this CCI is, to my mind, a very important development, and the fact that the Prime Minister is going to head this committee is important. Execution, however, is going to be the critical factor. I do hope it meets on a regular basis. I do hope that all the pending projects are reviewed, and I hope that all the important ministries that might have a say in that particular project are represented at each meeting, so that a quick decision is arrived at.
Mr. Godrej, that brings me to the entire issue of environmental clearances, because the industry is on record to say that that perhaps is the biggest roadblock. At the same time, there were concerns expressed that the say of the Environment Ministry should not be bypassed. Do you think the setting up of the Cabinet Committee on Investments takes care of all the concerns?
Shweta, that will depend on how the execution really is. It has the capability of doing so. Whether it does so or not depends on whether it meets regularly, whether it takes quick decisions on these issues. But you are right, many projects have been held up on environmental clearances. We are very much for environmental laws being implemented. We are very much for the environment being protected. But quick decision making is important. We take too long in India to take certain decisions, whether it's in the Environment Ministry or otherwise. Secondly, when you have committees which need to take particular decisions, they need to meet regularly. This difficulty of getting everybody involved in meeting and getting a meeting, whether it's cabinet committees or otherwise, is a bit of a problem. And I think it's very important that such committees lay down their schedules in advance and regularly meet at those times, so that everybody makes sure that they are available for the meetings and the meeting does take place in time. I think if the execution of the CCI is good, I think it will make a huge difference to India's GDP growth rate and our projects taking off much more rapidly than in the near past.
That brings me to the other point, some concerns that are being expressed that what has finally been approved, the Cabinet Committee on Investments, is a much more watered down version of what was actually proposed earlier, the National Investment Board. Do you think that's a real concern, that it may not have the kind of authority or the power that was earlier being envisaged in the National Investment Board?
But who can have more power than the Prime Minister of India? And if the Prime Minister of India is chairing this committee, it has all the powers. It's a question of how well you execute that power.
All right, Mr. Godrej, many thanks for your views on the Cabinet Committee on Investment. Mr. Vikram Singh Mehta.